Before I talk about Raw this week, let me get some of the plugs out of the way. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter. At OTRS Central is the Twitter handle. Still trying to figure out how the show has picked up 20,000 Twitter followers since yesterday. A glitch? Perhaps. Anyways, make sure you also go like the new OTRS Central Facebook page. That link is in the description box down below. Coming up tonight, Wednesday, March 26, 2014 at 9 p.m. Eastern, I will be joined on the OTRS Central podcast on Blog Talk Radio by my good friend and former member of the Off the Rope Show crew, Mr. Rout. We're going to talk some wrestling, some WWE, some WrestleMania 30, and we're going to talk some movies, and he'll be taking some of your questions as well. So 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, that link is in the description box down below. And my next guest for the Sunday edition, which starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, will be none other than the Salamonster, somebody that I think a lot of you are very familiar with here on YouTube. You probably have checked out his podcast on Podbean. You've probably seen him on the TV Tracks channel. So we're going to talk about all types of things pertaining to professional wrestling. So make sure you check out those two podcasts. Mr. Rout on Wednesday starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then the Salamonster coming up Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. As far as Raw for this week, now that I've got all the plugs out of the way, last week's show, I thought, did a tremendous job of really getting you hyped up and really getting you excited for WrestleMania. It accomplished what it needed to accomplish and then some, and was a really, overall good show to sit through. Not so much this week. This was kind of a tough watch. And I don't know if this is kind of the calm before the storm or this is just a little bit of a lull, but this was not a good show this week. I'm sorry. I really had trouble sitting through all 3 hours of it, and I was a little surprised and frankly, a little disappointed. And the disappointment all really started off with the opening segment. Look, I don't know if this was so bad that it was good, so bad that it was terrible, or so bad that it was awkward, or if it was just plain out awkward. But there just seemed to be a lot of confusion with this entire segment. Stephanie McMahon is supposed to be that heel kind of power authority figure, but it kind of seems like she's still trying to get over as a babyface, so they're trying to get her over as a babyface to some degree, and I don't fucking get it. You could clearly tell they're confused what to do with Randy Orton. He's your undisputed champion, and yet he feels like a third or fourth wheel in this whole title feud. It seems like Daniel Bryan's more important, Triple H is more important, and even Batista is more important, and I don't get that. And then when it comes to Batista... oh, God. Hashtag ass pocket. That's all I've got to say. I always feel that Batista is better in this jerk heel role, and I'm glad they're going to it sooner rather than later to try and rectify what was actually occurring, what was actually going on. But this has not been a good return for Batista, let's face it. This has been a bit of a disaster. Does that preclude him from necessarily walking out of WrestleMania 30, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion? No. Did I enjoy the fact that he was talking about everybody drooling on Stephanie? Probably. The Macho Man did. Oh, yeah. How I taste, Triple H. It felt like early on in the night the WWE was just going to do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And without any real rhyme or reason. You've got a fatal four-way number one contenders match, meaning that the winner gets to face Big E Langston the next night on main event for the Intercontinental Championship. And of course, the Brooklyn crowd, the poor souls, they were really thinking and hoping that Dolph Ziggler was going to win this one. And of course, that's exactly why he didn't. Now, as far as the crowd chanting, "This is awesome, this is awesome," this was an okay television match, but can we cut it out with the bullshit of always chanting for a match that's even okay or halfway decent being "This is awesome"? Have the standards of a great professional wrestling match decreased to that level where anything that is remotely good is going to get a "This is awesome" chant? In fact, if you keep chanting "This is awesome" for all of these different matches, it actually diminishes the quality and the greatness of an actually truly awesome match. This was a good match. This was far from an awesome fucking match. Period. And they had Christian win just to find out he had a concussion. They were going to pull him out of the main event match. One thing that actually really disappointed me on this show was the utilization, or I feel the lack of utilization, of Scooby-Doo on this episode of Raw, because you've got the Scooby-Doo WrestleMania mystery was coming out March 25th on Tuesday, and you bring in Scooby-Doo in the Mystery Machine. It's a freaky guy in a Scooby suit with Sin Cara. It's funny, they have Sin Cara on television because of the Scooby-Doo WrestleMania mystery movie coming out, but they seem to forget that they're advertising Brodus Clay as part of the fucking movie, and yet we can't see Brodus Clay anywhere. You think if they had enough forethought and vision to say, hey, we're going to put Sin Cara on here to help promote this movie. They wouldn't have done the dumb dick Brodus Clay heel turn just to not utilize him on television the past couple of months. You would think. And how sad it is to see what has happened to Damien Sandow. Remember all those assholes that were trying to tell you that Sandow wasn't going to get buried? This was a good thing that he lost the way he did to Cena, not once but twice. What do those idiots got to say now? Damien Sandow, just another victim, it seems like, of the John Cena WWE experience. Yeah. And like I said, you got Scooby-Doo, you know, character, one of my favorite characters as a kid, and you barely utilize him. Yeah, it disappointed me a little bit and frankly pissed me off. Now, for my money, Triple H has always been a much better heel than he's been a babyface. In terms of his character, in terms of the way he acts, sometimes the things that he says in his promos, and etc., the way he conducts and carries himself, I just feel it translates better on television when he's a heel as opposed to a babyface. And whereas I was confused at the beginning of the show whether or not they were trying to really get Stephanie over as a heel or as a babyface, they left no doubt here in this 1 hour main event segment that Triple H is heel. And he's balls in deep as a heel. And that's tremendous. That's absolutely tremendous because that's where he's better suited for. A Vince McMahon light, so to speak. And his interview here with Michael Cole was really, really good. Really, I think, got a lot of heat on him. And he was being very real, you know, like talking about the fact that, you know, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. That's why I'm talking about praise God. He's going to become the next WWE World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 30. And just think about this, people. Just think about this for a second. He's got all types of people he could feud with. He could feud with Randy Orton. And then he could feud with Batista. And then he could feud with Sheamus. And then he could feud with John Cena. And then he could feud with the returning Shawn Michaels. And this could all set up to an epic Breakfast Club 6-pack challenge at WrestleMania 31. Shawn Michaels versus Randy Orton versus John Cena versus Batista versus Sheamus versus Triple H. Just think about the possibilities. Just think about the epic type of awesomeness. This is Triple H's chance. He must seize upon it. He is only a 13-time WWE/World Heavyweight Champion. You can't let Cena have more than you. You got to win at WrestleMania, lose it the next month, win it back. That gets you to 15. Find one other excuse throughout the year to drop it and win it back. That gets you to 16, ties you with Flair officially. Then you can win in that 6-pack challenge at WrestleMania 31 and become a 17-time world champion and be a record setter. Praise God. I know a lot of you may have vomited in your mouth at the thought of that, and understandably so. And a lot of you maybe just popped wood in your pants at the thought of that, and understandably so. You want some reality? Here's the reality. Breakfast Club rules, bitches. And he brought in the reality era, apparently, which was news to me. My one disappointment with this whole segment is, it's God, it's Triple H. You would expect, you would think, especially if you're trying to get yourself over as a heel, that he would go 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Maybe he'd have a pose down. Maybe he'd have a wrestling exhibition, a live sex celebration with Stephanie. I don't know any fucking thing. Maybe he would wrestle a midget Daniel Bryan. You know, maybe somebody that's all of 5'2". I don't fucking know. And he talked about he reads our tweets. Well, you know, we tried to do a hashtag Ask Triple H Q&A, and that didn't go well. Anybody else find it funny that this week it was Cody taking on Fandango? They didn't want poor Johnny Curtis to have anything to do with Dustin Runnels. I guess. I'm still disappointed, though, man. I'm sorry. I couldn't even really get into this match between Cody and Fandango because I'm still thinking about the opportunity that is there that the WWE, for whatever reason, isn't going with. Cody Rhodes versus Goldust, WrestleMania 30. It's not hard to figure out. Just fucking do it! I can imagine this comes to the surprise of absolutely none of you that my favorite segment on Raw this week, one of the real few redeeming qualities of Raw this week, was the appearance by Hulk Hogan to be this kind of WWE/movie plug-in spokesperson. I'm glad to see that the Brooklyn crowd understands who Hulk Hogan is and understands that he's not to blame for any animosity you have with the CM Punk or any animosity you have with the WWE in terms of the treatment of Daniel Bryan and CM Punk as well and others, and that he got the respect and the love and the admiration that he so richly deserved. And while a lot of the maybe more hardcore, purist wrestling fans didn't particularly like this segment, I thought it was very good. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was very refreshing in a show that, frankly, needed it. He brings out his friend Arnold, the former governor of California, and then the other guy who's not the governor of California, to talk about the movie Sabotage. This was fun. It was striking, though, wasn't it? As you have Hogan standing there and Arnold standing there, and the guy that's not Hogan and Arnold standing there, Joe, whatever the fuck his name is, I don't know, I don't care. And then Miz comes out and interrupts. How fucking dare you? You know, you bastard. You don't interrupt this greatness. And I thought he was supposed to be a face anyways. So when he comes out and he's standing in the ring and I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know, the three guys in the ring that actually look like legit WWE superstars, none of them are The Miz. That was very striking to me and very telling to me. And then, like I said, in general, this was a fun segment. This was a good segment. A way to utilize Hogan in a non-overbearing way. You just give him one segment here in the middle of the show, plug the network, appear, plug Arnold's movie, and at the same point in time, bring some life into a show that desperately, desperately needed it. Big Show's been on a tear lately, hasn't he? This time he beats Titus O'Neil, and I'm just wondering if they're positioning him this way to build him up so that way he can win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania 30. If that's what they choose to do, that's fine. It would just seem to me that they're either building him up just to fuck with him like they've loved to do over the years, or they're building him up for a reason and a purpose. And again, like I said, if they end up having him win the Battle Royal, there's no big issues or complaints with me. In fact, I think it would be a good thing for them to do. One thing I really did like on this show was not Harper versus Cena the match, but how it finished and what happened and how they set this up throughout the night. They're making John Cena look like he's scared, looking like he's actually questioning himself, intimidated, fearful of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. Oh my God, imagine that, trying to actually get real heat on the heels and trying to make the babyface look vulnerable where you would actually have to rally behind him because he needs your support to actually overcome this obstacle. It's a novel concept that they don't do nearly enough with John Cena, why so many fans resent him, and when you sit there and he's tied up in the ropes and he's got the lamb mask on him, you're like, holy shit, Bray Wyatt might actually have a chance to beat him at WrestleMania. Why couldn't they have done this at the end of the show? Have the heel look dominant and strong and have the babyface look weak and questionable. A good way to actually build towards a Mania match. They did it here. They sure as hell didn't do it at the end of the night. Everybody that watches this knows I'm no fan of AJ Lee, and I think I've explained that before, and I'm not really going to do it again. However, I will say, in the interest of fairness, is if the WWE was going to go there with her and make her the longest reigning Divas champion in history, then actually make her feel like the longest reigning Divas champion in history. I mean, it's like CM Punk, her man. 434 days as WWE champion, and they made him feel a lot of times like a mid-card world champion, and that's exactly what happened. Don't kid yourself. Now with AJ Lee, they make her feel like a dark match Divas champion, and that's a shame. So even here with AJ and Naomi, it's just this whole thing it's stupid. I hate so many of the things that they do with AJ Lee, whatever. But Vicky Guerrero comes out and announces that basically every diva on the WWE roster is going to be in this Vicky Guerrero Invitational at WrestleMania 30, and hopefully, finally, that means that the belt's going to get off of AJ Lee. Hey, you get all the divas on the show. That way you keep everybody happy. They can be a part of this big seminal event in WWE history. Just don't bother asking what your payout's going to be for the event because Vince doesn't know, and he's probably not going to tell you until after you get paid. I'm just curious. Out of all the participants, out of all the divas in this invitational at WrestleMania 30, who do you want to walk out the champion? Do you want AJ Lee to retain, really? Do you think it's set up for Tamina to do it? Do you think it's set up for Naomi to do it? Do you think it's set up for, oh God, one of the fucking Bellas to do it? I'm just wondering. It's interesting now to see what the WWE is doing with the Shield since they've made that full-fledged babyface turn. Here, they wrestle the Real Americans, and, you know, they end up putting Cesaro through the table, skip-de-skip and whoop-de-woo. But after this match, excuse me, here comes Kane in a suit. Here comes the New Age Outlaws in a suit, and it's like, yep, that's exactly what this was. This was an excuse for these three guys to get a match at WrestleMania. That's the only reason that they turned the Shield face. There might be other things that you're being told as to why. Well, you split off Rollins and Ambrose on their own and let Reigns go as a face. Well, that's kind of stupid because I think you could argue now that Rollins, especially in this match, again, he really shined. He really was showcased very well to the point where Ambrose has become the third wheel. Why would you turn Rollins heel? The crowd's really getting behind him. They're really starting to like him as a babyface. Turn Ambrose heel. Let Rollins stay face. Why don't you? So I don't buy that logic. I don't buy that bullshit. To me, it was just an excuse to get Kane and the New Age Outlaws a featured match on the WrestleMania card. And if that's the case, fine. Now, I know a lot of fans are probably going to be upset because they're expecting this to not be a great showcase match for the Shield and their skill sets. And I get that. It's probably not going to be a great WrestleMania match. Let's just face it. Could surprise us, but probably won't. But here, it will be more about signature moments, signature victories at Big Four pay-per-views for the Shield. So in that sense, I'm okay with them having them face Kane and the New Age Outlaws at WrestleMania 30 because it's kind of a new school versus old school element, which is something that I've been a very big fan of for a WrestleMania, and I thought they maybe should have done here for WrestleMania 30. So I'm okay with the Shield wrestling these guys as long as the Shield goes over, and I would assume you got to have Roman Reigns get the pinfall victory ultimately to follow up on his great performance at the Royal Rumble. You would think anyways. You would think. To me, like I said at the beginning, this was not a very good Raw. This was a very, very hard Raw to sit through. So when I got to the end and Lesnar and Heyman appear, I'm like, well, Taker's going to appear. Maybe this will be the redeeming moment that saves this show for me. And then sadly, it didn't. I've been a fan up to this point of the keep it simple, stupid build between Taker and Lesnar. Emphasize the importance of the streak. Emphasize that Taker has also been around for a very long time and that he's never faced anybody quite like Brock Lesnar. But instead of really emphasizing that, you get to the whole mind games thing with Taker. The Druids bring out the casket, and Lesnar's acting scared. He's acting intimidated by a fucking coffin. And, how are you building up anticipation here? How are you getting heat on Lesnar? How are you making Lesnar look formidable as an opponent and the most legit threat to the streak yet? If you're having Taker take him out, if you're having him run scared from Taker, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. To me, if you do this, you should have fucking Brock Lesnar beat the shit out of all the Druids, fucking take the casket over his fucking head and throw it up the ramp. You should do all of that type of shit. And they did none of that here. This was very lame, this was very flat, and this just felt like more typical WWE booking in the sense that every step along the way, the babyface has to look dominant. No, he doesn't. And especially in the case when you're dealing with Taker and Lesnar. You need to do everything you can because the fans are automatically assuming that Taker is going to win and the streak is going to continue, especially against a part-timer like Lesnar. You need to do everything you possibly can to make Lesnar look like the biggest badass on the planet and the most likely of anybody ever to break the fucking streak. And again, he just looked like another jobber jabroni here. He really did. This ending pissed me off. It frustrated me tremendously. It upset me a little bit. This is one of your featured WrestleMania attractions, and pretty much every step along the way, Undertaker has looked dominant and superior to Brock Lesnar. And that stuff would have worked before, as long as you gave Lesnar something. And maybe you will next week on Raw. And then maybe I could sit there and say, okay, you finally did it. But will it be too fucking late? I don't get it. But the biggest thing I don't get about this show is why you would not in any way, shape, or form have the hottest guy on your product, Daniel Bryan, appear in any way, shape, or form. You could sit there and talk about selling a beating. Okay, well, if he's in the hospital, then do a fucking satellite remote interview with him at the hospital all bandaged up and shit, because they've never done that before, right? Okay? You could have him sit there, come out, and during Triple H's reality era promo, you could have Daniel Bryan come out hobbling and limping and doing all of this. To sit there and not have Daniel Bryan appear, to me, was stupidity of the highest order. The hottest guy in your company, 2 weeks before WrestleMania, and he doesn't make one fucking appearance on the show. If there was ever a time that would make me doubt, if there was ever a point or a moment that would make me question or a decision that would make me wonder whether the WWE was really ready to get full steam balls in behind Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, it's this show this week. 2 weeks before WrestleMania, and he didn't make one fucking appearance. Not one promo, not a match, not even a small appearance, not a satellite interview, nothing. Nothing. And if anything, maybe, it's funny, isn't it? We talk about sometimes when a Cena's off the show, sometimes it's better because he's not on there, but sometimes you could tell they really miss him. Well, I think beyond question, you could definitely make the argument this week that you could clearly tell the WWE missed Daniel Bryan not being on television at all. I get the whole thing about selling the beating, but he should have made an appearance at some fucking point. This was stupid. Less than 2 weeks to go to WrestleMania, the hottest guy in your company, and he's nowhere to be found on this show. That is a dumbass booking decision by WWE. I don't care what anybody tries to tell me otherwise.